So, welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking Adrian Newey. Is he a sellout with all these rumours potentially going to Aston Martin? Ferrari have reportedly said no, and we'll look at a bit of history around Adrian Newey leaving teams and why. To be fair, rumours at the moment that he has signed with Aston Martin. There's been nothing confirmed. And also, sellout is a question that we most certainly will be discussing. I'm not exactly saying Newey is a sellout yet. But let's have a look at Adrian Newey's move to Ferrari. And not to Ferrari even. Not going to Ferrari. Fred Vassar has said a big fat no. Let's talk about that, shall we? So, Planet F1 are reporting that Ferrari's fourth attempt, number four, at signing Adrian Newey came undone when the design guru wanted, apparently, again, reportedly, the right to veto the hiring of new engineers. Claims, and that's from a respected Italian publication. Once again, pinch of salt. A bit of back history, though. Newey also wanted, I think, back in the Williams, with the Williams time, to not veto, but have a say in their drivers. So it's not something that he's foreign to, for example. But according to Autosprint, Ferrari have missed out on Newey, and not for the first time. The 65-year-old deal set to join Aston Martin, and that's rumoured to be worth $100 million. So where did it all go wrong? Well, no sooner had the press release gone out for the 1st of May for Red Bull to announce that their chief technical officer, Adrian Newey, would leave the Red Bull Technology Group in that first quarter of 2025. The rumours linking him to Ferrari began and became stronger and stronger, like a tsunami. But from a visit to Maranello to conversations in airport lounges, Newey to Ferrari pretty much seemed like a done deal. Everything but actually signing on the dotted line. As time went by without confirmation, though, the Briton insisted he was still looking at his options, but not many people really believed him. McLaren have been mentioned, and so have Williams. But why did he not join Ferrari? Well, as we mentioned, Ferrari were happy to match whatever salary demands Newey made with a whatever it takes attitude, similar to when they got Lewis Hamilton. But the whatever it takes clearly had a limit, because rumour was that he'd asked for decision-making powers that he asked for decision-making powers that are the prerogative of the team principal. And Vassar looked at that and was like, no. Now, the 65-year-old, he supposedly wanted the right to veto on hiring of new engineers, the allocation of roles, and the acceptance of technical partnerships. Team boss Vassar, to be fair, put his foot down and said no. He perhaps even dropped a hint about his stance when he spoke to the media at the Hungarian Grand Prix. He said, I always push to explain that individuals are less important than the group. And it is true when you are signing someone, and it is when you are losing someone, he said. The stability of the group, talking about the team, Ferrari, and that other people are working well together. And Newey's decision to sign supposedly with Aston Martin leaves Ferrari a key man short, particularly for the upcoming 2026 regulations, which could be a bit of a sour spot for Ferrari if they don't get it right with Lewis Hamilton incoming. But Newey to Aston Martin. So it appears it's happening, according to a lot of sources. Lawrence Stroll is the most convincing person in the F1 paddock, according to Mike Crack. He's talking about his boss, so yes, I imagine he wouldn't be saying anything negative about his boss. Or, to be fair, Mike Crack never says anything negative, at least in public, about Lance Stroll. He knows where his bread is buttered, no doubt. But his words are potentially ringing true amidst reports of this whole Ferrari not going with Newey, but now Aston going with Newey. And that's from Autosprint, the publication, once again called Autosprint. That's the Italian publication. So it looks as though, if rumours are true, that he has signed. But now Lawrence Stroll is also rumoured to convince Max Verstappen on a chart to turn Aston Martin into a championship-winning Formula One team. Stroll has made key signings, including Enrico Cardil from Ferrari as the team's technical chief officer from 2025, and beating almost every team on the grid to Andy Cowell. That is the former Mercedes engine boss, yes, back when Mercedes made the best engine bar none. And he'll take up on this position as a group chief executive officer in October. But according to Autosprint, this Stroll deal is by no means done. He is looking for both, obviously, Newey, and he's looking for Max Verstappen. Now, the rumoured money is a reported 100 million deal to join the team. I don't think that's 100 million a year. Maybe it's over 3 or 4 years. But I think at Red Bull, who's getting about 10 million potentially, Stroll is now being claimed he wants another leading Red Bull star after supposedly signing Newey in Max Verstappen. So much so, he'd shift his son apparently to Aston Martin's WEC program to make room for the triple world champion. If that was the case, finally, Lance, you are a serious Formula One team that many can get behind. I mean, Lawrence, if Lance does go to the WEC team and you had Fernando Alonso and Max Verstappen, that would be amazing because, as we know, Fernando Alonso has signed a multi-year deal. That was really, really interesting, wasn't it? I mean, that would be absolutely amazing if indeed that was the case. What's interesting though, report back in the 2nd of May when Newey first left Red Bull, was Aston Martin. It said suffered a huge blow in big money pursuit. I will share the screen with you here as we read. So Aston Martin, it says here, suffered a huge major blow in their efforts to sign Adrian Newey from Red Bull. It's been claimed with once again rumours, etc. With the F1 the F1 designer legend reportedly wary of team owner Lance Stroll. After days of speculation over his future, Red Bull confirmed on Wednesday that he's going to leave the team. This was the report in May. Newey, as we know, the news of departure is likely to intensify the race to sign Newey. Reports last month claimed, here we go, Aston Martin owner Stroll made a lucrative offer to Newey during the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix weekend in Jeddah in March of this year, aiming to capitalise on what was the instability of Red Bull. Hashtag WhatsAppgate. Newey previously worked closely with the Aston Martin British brand on making the Valkyrie. That was between 2016 and 2020. Now, Aston Martin, as we know, also lured Dan Fallows, who's a close colleague of Red Bull. And Newey is also previously spoken of his regret over never having the chance to work with Fernando Alonso, who is now an Aston Martin driver. However, the team's hopes of landing Newey have been dealt a blow after it emerged that the outgoing Red Bull man holds significant reservations over Stroll himself, senior. According to a report by motorsport.com, Newey is not considering Aston Martin's lucrative offer over his attitude towards Stroll, described as rather reserved. Newey is concerned that Stroll could use his signing to drive up the value for Aston Martin with the ultimate aim of selling the team as a profit. And a report by Bloomberg last week claims Stroll is in early talks to sell a minority stake of 25% in the Aston Martin team as he seeks to capitalise on F1's current boom. As you know, Aston Martin welcomed most recently new investors last November when US private equity firm Arctus Partners acquired a minority sharing. This was in May. I mean, once again, all rumours, and understandably, that completely made sense as to why Adrian Newey didn't want to go to the Aston Martin team. Now, stuff like this has happened before. If you're a long-time F1 fan, if I told you, I think back in 2001, Adrian Newey was working with the McLaren team, but then something happened. His friend Bobby Rahal was at the Jaguar team and reportedly signed Adrian Newey. It wasn't a contract. It was kind of like an agreement in principle, which some could argue is not worth the paper it's printed on. Kind of like a pre-contract, I agree to this, etc. Yeah. And he ended up becoming the man behind a bitter battle between both McLaren and Jaguar Racing. And he's spoken out because what happened was Adrian Newey, even in his book, he went to Ron Dennis and said, I am going to join Jaguar. Ron, absolutely aghast. The two, I don't think, got on particularly well. Ended up saying, no, you can't go to Jaguar. Even basically had his wife at the time as well try and convince Adrian not to go to Jaguar. Now, the key reason why, I mean, Newey was happy to leave McLaren for, I imagine it would have been reportedly a lot of money at the time. And the key thing there was they were able to convince Adrian Newey not to go to Jaguar because Bobby Rahal, who was at the heart of the dispute, he was the team boss. There were rumours that he was going to be ousted by the Ford team in favour of potentially a Niki Lauda, which did happen in the end. Adrian even said, I had previously agreed with Jaguar that nothing would come out until 8:30 a.m. the Friday morning. When I spoke to them and informed them of my decision, they agreed to stop the press release being issued. At that point, only a few people were affected. Despite it, it appears they chose to release the press issue, and they released it saying Adrian Newey going to Ferrari. Sorry, not Ferrari, so Adrian Newey going to Jaguar. Ironically, he did go to Jaguar later because the Jaguar became Red Bull. But anyway, Jaguar continued to insist that Newey signed a legally binding agreement to join the team after his contract ends with McLaren on the 31st of July next year. That'll be 2002. Then the dispute has now gone to the High Court. Newey claims he did toy with the idea of leaving McLaren for a reputed $3.5 million a year in 2002. This would have been. Due to primarily his close relationship with Bobby Rahal. Newey worked as Rahal's team manager in IndyCar. And he said, one of the reasons I made the decision was because I was enthused about the idea of working with Bobby Rahal. Maybe that persuaded me to go down a road I might not have gone down in different circumstances. I mean, the fact is, he was dead set. At one point, Adrian Newey was dead set on going to Jaguar. He then did a massive U-turn. And had to be convinced by Ron Dennis. So take that what you will. Adrian. So he also left. I mean, let's have a look. He left Williams, and that's I believe the true end for Williams when Adrian Newey left. So Frank Williams and Nigel Mansell, they butted heads over Alan Prost joining the team for 93. That resulted supposedly in Mansell walking away as the F1 reigning champion in 92. Williams also had a small matter of negotiating with Adrian Newey. Pairing Newey with Patrick Head on the car design in 1990 was integral to the team, and let's be fair, they built an amazing car. Which was really good. Now, in 93, he signed a contract extension with a clause saying he would be involved in major decisions during driver selection. That was Adrian Newey. And it didn't mean that Newey was able to block a decision by Williams and Head, but they both owned 70 and 30% at the time, respectively. 70% for Frank Williams, 30% for Patrick Head. And they could still outvote him 2-1, but to be fair, under the triangular of management, he still had a say. And that was formalised to a greater extent the next deal Newey signed in 95, where he had enshrined in his contract that he would be consulted on decisions about drivers, engine supplies and technical battles with the FIA. No more decisions over lunch for me to learn about them much later. The frustrating thing was Adrian Newey learned very late on that Nigel Mansell was going to leave the team. Something that he clearly was not particularly happy about. Now, Williams gave him what he wanted and a well-deserved pay hike. In the book, Adrian Newey said, look, he's not really in it for the money, but he likes to be paid what he's worth. After he joined the team on less money than he'd been earning at Leighton House. That was a former team. We'll get into that in a minute. But Newey wasn't motivated by money, but having contributed so much to the success for Williams, which he did, and with McLaren and Ferrari showing increasing interest in the services, it was understandable for him to want, this to reflect your salary. Completely agree. The new arrangement appeared to be working as it should. Newey, though, was on holiday when Jacques Villeneuve was given a test in the summer of 95 as a possible replacement for David Coulthard the next year. But the agreement with Head and Williams was that the Indianapolis 500 winner needed to get within 1 second of the pace to earn this, to earn another test within 1 second. Villeneuve got to within half a second of Damon, but there was no further evaluation. Now, without Newey being consulted, the IndyCar title, he was signed. Newey reminded Williams on his return that his contract made it clear he was supposed to be involved in these decisions. Now, when the initial excuse along the lines of, but you were on holiday, didn't wash, Frank Williams apologised and told him it was a force of habit. Little did he know, though, a matter of months later, it did. Now, Hill was firmly trounced by Michael Schumacher in what was a not very good 95 for Williams or Hill, was it? And Williams took the decision before the 1996 campaign to sign Heinz-Harald Frentzen. A really good German driver, didn't go very well at Williams. Arguably Jordan's most successful driver. But Newey only found this out once again when travelling, but this was travelling back from the Belgian Grand Prix in August of that year, when he asked Patrick Head about mounting speculation that Frentzen was replacing Hill for 97. Head confessed that the bosses had been meaning to tell you the Frentzen deal was done. It didn't help matters, obviously, that Newey was also really close to Hill. And he was like, oh my God, they've done the dirty on Damon Hill. It seemed this repeat of Nigel Mansell going. And it was at this point, more importantly, that he intended to leave. And he made it very clear to Williams. Integrity there for Adrian Newey, absolutely. you kind of like, screwed my driver over, screwed my contract over, for example. And here's the thing. He obviously cares very much about drivers. Now, the big but into whether I feel that Adrian Newey sold out, and here we come to the crux of the question, whether Adrian Newey is a sellout. I think if he goes to Aston Martin and Lance Stroll is still there, despite the plethora of other drivers that could be at the team, if he goes there with Lance Stroll still there in the number 2 but not really car, yeah, absolutely, he doesn't take it seriously. He's there for the money, in my humble opinion. If Lance Stroll does stay there. Now, obviously, it does read that maybe if they sign someone better, like a Max, and they want to keep an Alonso, Lance Stroll may go to WEC, where he probably should be already, because there have been a lot of better drivers than Lance Stroll. Once again, I'm not hating on Lance Stroll. I'm just saying it's a fact that there have been a lot better drivers that could have gone to Aston Martin / Racing Point than Lance Stroll. It's, albeit, I don't think it's never impossible, but they say never. But I cannot see, unless you have a series of unfortunate incidents with lots of other people, that Lance Stroll will ever be champion. Could he win a race? Yeah, for sure. If the car's good enough and he gets it. But when the car was good, he didn't even get a podium. It was all about Fernando Alonso. In fact, Lance Stroll hardly ever got near a podium when the car was at its best. You've got to be good to be a Formula 1 driver. So go around that track and not lose it. Obviously, he's had a lot, they've had a lot of experience. But in the amount of years Lance Stroll been here, he's rubbish. Let's be fair, compared to the drivers that could be at Aston Martin. And if Newey goes there with Lance Stroll there, I'm like, yeah. Clearly, he obviously cares about the drivers. He wants to stay in the drivers at Aston Martin. Maybe I've got it completely wrong and Lance Stroll won't be there when Adrian Newey goes. Which means, okay, with this 100 million, it won't be, I think, 100 million a year. It'll be over the course of like 3 or 4 years. But still, that's a lot of money. If all these rumours are actually true. And I really thought that Adrian may well be going to a Ferrari to cement his legacy, get Lewis Hamilton that 8th championship, or Charles Leclerc his first. And at that point, he would have cemented his legacy as the greatest ever. If not already, he's being the greatest ever. But I think that puts a cast iron stamp on it and makes it nigh impossible for anyone to beat that, because he's been around for so long. Or go back to his old team, either at McLaren or Williams. Serious racing teams, let's be fair, compared to Aston Martin at the moment, for that exact reason I've been ranting about. And win the championship with Williams. I mean, wouldn't that be amazing? Yes, I'm sure he would be paid handsomely, maybe not the 100 million, but what a project. And maybe Williams could have even offered Adrian Newey maybe like a percentage ownership of the team or something to make him more lucrative and more invested in. And he almost like bookends, not quite, but sort of bookends his F1 career. Yeah, I know he started with the Leighton House. But there we go. I mean, he did leave. Remember, when we look at why Adrian left other teams, let's quick have a look here to end out the video. Leighton House edged out by the finance guy. The team was obviously beginning to lose confidence in me, he said in his book. Maybe I was slipping, making mistakes. Maybe 1988 was my pinnacle, and I was only capable of being a one-hit wonder. But in his book, he talked about the self-doubt enveloping our Leighton House designs, struggling through 89 and 90 after sometimes hassling the dominant McLarens, is hugely at odds with what followed his career. But in the end, Adrian's exit from former March team happened just as it spectacularly, if temporarily, improved. Newey was aware that the 1989 car had some fundamental problems and tried to make its successor what he called a desensitized version of it, but it was just as bad as what came before, and Leighton House failed to qualify 6 times. Oh no, Adrian. And then he went to work on redesigning. As Newey went through a cycle of redesigning parts and testing them, making adjustments. There was another issue on the horizon. Leighton's house owner was in financial trouble, so eventually that's why Newey left there. So, a bold strategy. I mean, it's quite interesting. I was snubbed over driver choices. That's the Williams one. Why he left, ultimately. What do they say about McLaren? Newey later described of creatures of habit who couldn't adapt, he said, about Patrick Head and Frank Williams. Yeah, fair enough. So, McLaren, the team he left twice, yeah. Didn't take long for McLaren to become the F1 benchmark. I mean, Newey was amazing at McLaren. He built a car in 1998 that lapped the field That's like dominance that not even Red Bull, at least in a race, had ever seen. Anyway, I digress. So, is Adrian Newey a sellout? Maybe. Depending on what happens at Aston Martin with the team. A team that never likes to criticise its drivers. I understand that, in a way. Even Fernando Alonso says what a star Lance Stroll is. Yeah, don't believe you, Fernando, sorry. I mean, let's be fair. Fernando, great driver. One of the most political drivers in terms of like the way he plays stuff in Formula One, which at times has really hurt his career. But there we go. But a great driver nonetheless. So if you made it to the end, even if you made it through the rant, impressive. I'm very impressed. Give us a subscribe. That would be absolutely amazing. Thank you very much. If you're already subscribed, hit that notification button if you haven't. Therefore, you don't miss a video. We do Formula One, we do Rally, we do Touring Car, we do a bit of gaming as well. Currently doing Nigel Mansell in F1 2024. Don't think we're not really going for the title. We're just going to see how good we can do. But we did. We have won a race or two, which is not too bad if you want to look back at that playlist. We've got many other old playlists as well, from F1 95 on the PlayStation 1 to F1 97. Yeah, all fun and games. We will speak to you soon. Thank you very much.